find the strength.
What is up? GoodMicWork, back at you. Better late than never. Up here a little bit later than normal for my pay-per-view reviews. But very late Sunday night, and I am finally able to come up here now and briefly talk about Backlash. And we have a brand new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Congratulations, AJ Styles. Could not be happier for you. So we're going to get into all of that, as well as the rest of the results of Backlash, and I'll discuss CM Punk's debut at UFC 203 on Saturday night. But let's start off with Backlash first, right with the main event. I predicted this match incorrectly. I thought Backlash coming up just a couple of weeks after SummerSlam. It was kind of a pay-per-view that they could probably afford to keep the belt on Dean a little bit longer and have AJ grab the belt next month or the month after. That's the way I thought they were going to do it. I had no doubt that they were going to put the belt on AJ. That felt obvious, especially after the victory he had over John Cena at SummerSlam. Definitely put him in line, and we've all been smelling it. I was a bit surprised to see it take place tonight on Backlash, however, although I'm not complaining at all. I am so happy for AJ Styles. Can you believe that our two world champions right now are Kevin Owens and AJ Styles? That's fucking awesome. I never thought, number one, AJ Styles would ever get to the WWE, and if he did, he definitely wouldn't be WWE World Heavyweight Champion. You know, in my head, I always thought if AJ came in, he would just be used, you know, much like Dolph Ziggler or something like that. Just Intercontinental title level at best, maybe an occasional title shot, but never somebody that they are focusing the show around. And they really seem to be doing that with AJ on SmackDown. He is a big, big part of that brand, and now he's their champion, and I wish him all the luck in the world. I hope he has a long reign. As far as how he won it tonight, pretty simple. Low blow when the referee was down, and then nailed Dean with the Styles Clash and got the pin. I thought it was a really good match. There were a few spots in there that I really enjoyed. One where Dean kind of slingshot kicked sort of AJ off the apron, and he looked like he hit the mat at 100 miles an hour. That was awesome. Whole bunch of good shit in this match. Lots of brawling. It spilled out onto the floor, into the audience even. So this match had everything, and then the final finish was AJ, kicking Dean in the nuts, which sets up, obviously, the rematch. Dean would have gotten one anyway with his rematch clause, but now AJ really didn't pick that thing up quote-unquote clean, so Dean's going to be pretty pissed off about that, and I'm sure it'll set up something at the next pay-per-view. So hopefully AJ can hang on with it, move on from Dean Ambrose, and move on to other opponents. And I did talk about John Cena. AJ Styles is insulting him literally in every promo he cuts, so it's pretty obvious that one of these days our Fruity Pebble superhero is going to make his way back onto WWE TV, and he might just pick up his victory against AJ Styles. And AJ's got a belt around his waist, so makes me a little nervous. But that's in the future. Let's not think about the future. Let's think about the present. And right now, AJ Styles just won a major, major world title, the biggest one he's ever won. He's been champion everywhere he's wrestled. And for him to win that WWE world title is a pretty amazing accomplishment for a wrestler like AJ Styles, especially considering he got there in January. He showed up at the Royal Rumble. Here it is, the beginning of September, and he's the champion. Unbelievable. He wasn't the only champion crowned at Backlash. The show opened with the women's match to determine the new SmackDown Women's Champion. Now, I had gone out on a limb and predicted Natalya. I really didn't in my heart think that was going to happen. I just thought it might be a nice bone to throw to her since, she's kind of put her time in there or whatever. And the women's division on SmackDown, is nothing special to me. I much prefer what's going on over on Raw. I'm not really sold on Alexa Bliss yet. I don't really like Carmella. They do a couple of things really well, but their overall presentation I just don't really like, especially Carmella. She seems more like a diva search type of chick or something. So I'm not saying my feelings can't change. They very well may. The more I see these girls work, and they both had a couple of really nice moves and spots in this women's match. This was a lot more entertaining than I expected it to be, and the girls worked their ass off, and it was really overall an entertaining match. And Becky ended up getting the final victory. It was down to her and Carmella were the last two in there, and she locked her in her finisher. The fans could smell it. They were chanting her name. They knew that if Carmella would have gone over in that thing, there might have been a riot. We all wanted to see Becky win. It's been a long time coming for her, too. She gets Carmella to tap out and becomes the inaugural SmackDown Women's Champion, and the crowd went nuts for a very emotional moment. She cut a promo in the ring after the match, so we're all very happy for Becky. So we'll see how she carries the title. We'll see how long her reign lasts. Heath Slater got his fucking contract. Thank God. It's about time. Him and Rhino did win the tag team titles tonight. First of all, the Usos had to face the Hype Bros in that what was it, the second chance challenge match or whatever it was. I thought this was going to take place on the pre-show, but the matches were pretty light, so they were able to put this on the main card. The Usos came out there in new ring attire, just wearing black with some white coats, which I said they needed to do to shed all the crazy bright colors that they were wearing, and they did that, and they had a much different attitude. They kind of worked a different style even. I loved the finish where they just went to town on Zack Ryder's leg, and he ended up tapping out to like a half crab type of thing. Basically, they did exactly to Zack Ryder what they did to Chad Gable's knee on SmackDown. So I like their kind of aggressive approach. I like the fact that they're winning matches via submission. You don't see that in tag teams very often. So I like it. I've always been a huge fan of the Usos. I'm a huge fan of that Samoan bloodline, and I always root for them to succeed whenever they are able to make the main roster, and the Usos have been there for a number of years now. This heel turn to me is long overdue. They've been a stale babyface for a long time, so I'm glad WWE's given them this opportunity to have a heel run. But unfortunately, their title aspirations were not to be, because after they beat the Hype Bros and moved on to face Heath Slater and Rhino, they came up short. I think Rhino came in and nailed one of them illegally with a spear when the referee wasn't looking, and allowed Heath Slater to get the pin, and the crowd went nuts. Heath Slater, I got to tell you, is over. I'm a little bit shocked if WWE is going to create a new championship, that they're putting the belts on a team that was literally thrown together, on a guy that's never really been over and is trying to get over for the first time, and someone that hasn't been in the company in God knows how long, and has only been in and out and is really at the end of his career. So I'm surprised that that's the first team that they decided to put the belts on, but whatever. Who cares, right? Heath Slater's over. We all love him. He's been impressing a lot of us in this recent storyline, and I think we're all happy for him. And they're a good babyface team, so whatever. Heath Slater, Rhino, congratulations. Happy for you both. And that match really wasn't half bad either. In a match where we did not have a new champion crowned, and I'm very happy about that, The Miz successfully defended the Intercontinental belt, defeating Dolph Ziggler in another really good match. I will say this for Backlash. It had some good wrestling. It had some good matches on this. And the finish saw Maurice getting involved, spraying Dolph Ziggler in the face with something, perfume, or I don't know what the hell it was. He gets blinded. The Miz nails him with the skull-crushing finale and retains the IC belt. So I'm happy about that. I'm guessing this feud is probably not over, but for the meantime, The Miz keeps the belt. I think that belt is a really good part of his overall persona and his gimmick, and they even showed another backstage segment with him and Daniel Bryan, and he insulted the shit out of Daniel Bryan again. And I know a lot of people are saying that he's not coming back to the ring and all of that, but then what the fuck is the point of this? You know, why is The Miz constantly bearing Daniel Bryan? I mean, I know he's getting a lot of heat for it, which is great, but if he's going to verbally abuse a guy like this, how can this not lead to some sort of a match in the future? So, I don't know. Maybe WWE is trying to fool everybody by letting things leak like, oh, he can't come back. WWE's not going to let him, even though his doctors cleared him. It doesn't matter. They're not going to let him wrestle again, and get the fans thinking that way, and then surprise us with a return to the ring by Daniel Bryan. I mean, SmackDown is kind of the lesser show when you compare it to Raw, especially with some of the shows that we've seen so far. The fact that Raw is doing pretty well and it hasn't even added the Cruiserweight division yet. You know, SmackDown could use a really big boost in the arm, and if they surprised us and brought Daniel Bryan back to the ring, that could be a pretty goddamn good boost. But right now, it's not appearing like that's the case, but, you know, The Miz keeps insulting him, and he gave him some more shit tonight at Backlash. So you got to wonder if Daniel Bryan's going to try to get some revenge and book The Miz in situations where he could lose the belt or something like that. So we'll have to wait and see, but good to see The Miz retain and hold on to that belt for a little while longer. I'm a big fan of his right now. Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton. A little bit of controversy goes along with this one. It was leaked earlier on in the day on Twitter and the news sites and whatever that Randy Orton was not going to be cleared to work against Bray Wyatt, which surprised me. I don't know why. I don't know why he's injured. I don't know, maybe it was a concussion stemming from what Brock Lesnar did to him at SummerSlam. But he basically just wasn't allowed to wrestle, and they kind of had to cancel the match at the last minute. They went along with everything on the pre-show and really didn't make much mention of it until later on in the show they ran a backstage angle. So to explain Randy Orton's inability to wrestle the match, they had Bray Wyatt attack him backstage to get some more heat. Attacks his leg, and the announcers start speculating that Randy Orton will probably not be able to compete in the match later on. Bray Wyatt then comes out to the ring to claim his victory. He insists that the referee counts to 10, and the ring announcer announces him as the winner via forfeit. And then the announcer goes on to inform the audience that Bray Wyatt will still be competing in a no-holds-barred match against this man, he says. And we're all waiting like, oh shit, who's it going to be? Maybe it'll be somebody fun. Luke Harper has been rumored to be healed from his injury and come back at any time. I don't know what sense it would make to have him go in there with Bray, really. I'd almost like to see them together rather than fighting, but I had a feeling it might be him. Some people wanted to see Samoa Joe. I wasn't ready for that. I want Samoa Joe to kind of come in a different way. Hooking up with Bray doesn't seem logical at this point. But of all the people that ran through my mind, the last person I really thought it would be Kane. And Kane came out, and I was just like, oh, are you kidding me? Jesus, I love Kane. He's legendary. He's the man. He's a Hall of Famer, no doubt, but I am sick and tired of seeing him. But these two guys put on a pretty entertaining match. It was a hell of a lot better than I thought it was going to be for a 51-year-old Kane. To be able to have that grueling of a match with Bray Wyatt, I thought was pretty awesome. So luckily, Kane, even though Bray Wyatt's opponent was disappointing, the two of those guys put on a pretty good match considering, who Bray is in there with. But the finish saw Randy Orton make an appearance. So I guess Randy Orton was okay to make an appearance and take one bump. They just wouldn't let him wrestle. So he hits the ring and nails Bray Wyatt with the RKO, and Kane then I think choke slams him and pins him. So a lot of people were pissed off that Bray Wyatt lost the match. In this situation, I didn't really care because Randy Orton came in and RKO'd him. He just got revenge for what Bray Wyatt did to him earlier on. So to me, it wasn't the type of loss that's going to damage Bray Wyatt. It's not like Kane went out there and beat him clean. If that happened, then yeah, I'd be pissed. But the way it all went down, whatever. What could they do, right? I mean, Randy Orton wasn't cleared to compete, so they had to think of something on the fly. I think they could have thought of something better, but Bray Wyatt and Kane saved it by putting on a pretty decent no-holds-barred match. So that's it for the main card. I do believe on the pre-show, I got home really late right before the pay-per-view started, so I only saw about 20 minutes of the pre-show, but I think the only match they had was Baron Corbin defeating Apollo Crews, which I did catch a few minutes of that, and it looked like a pretty solid match between the two former NXT guys. So Baron Corbin, I'm ready for them to start doing something with him. I feel like a pretty sizable push is in this guy's future, to say the least. And finally, before I get out of here, of course you guys want to hear my thoughts on CM Punk's UFC debut. Oh, man. I mean, I was rooting for him. I really was. I wasn't expecting him to win. I would have been very surprised if he did win. All I really wanted was for him to put up a fight, maybe it go to a decision, maybe have him tap out in a late round or something like that, because either way he was going in as the less experienced of the two. It's his debut match on such a big stage. And he's only been training for a couple of years, where his opponent most likely has been training a lot longer than that. I was worried for him. And my worst nightmares came true. CM Punk got the absolute shit kicked out of him. I mean, Jesus. When I watched this thing, by the way, I didn't watch it live, and thank you to everyone that was tweeting me updates, because I was in the middle of work, and I was telling people, hey, if you have any updates, let me know. What time is the fight? I'm going to try to eyeball my phone when I think the fight might be happening, because I'm dying to know what happens. When I went back and watched the fight later, I mean, just from that initial first step, as soon as CM Punk charged him, just ducked out of the way, lightning quick, took CM Punk down and just pounded him into oblivion, and CM Punk eventually tapped out to a chokehold. So CM Punk did not do well in his debut. I'll tell you what, though, he handled it like a man. You got to give the guy that. Even though he went in there and got smashed, he had the guts to step into that octagon. And the fact that he got beaten so badly, and he completely and 100% owned up to it. He made no excuses whatsoever. He said it was fun. He said it was the best fun he's ever had in his life, second only to his wedding night, is what he claims. He did an interview with a crooked nose that appeared to be broken, a giant swollen cauliflower ear just filled with blood, a cut above his eye, a bruise on his head. I mean, he was a fucking mess. And he said it was a great time, and he gave all the credit in the world to Mickey Gall for the ass-kicking that was laid upon him. And he said, I'm glad to know where I stand and how much work I have to do and how overmatched I truly was in this fight. And everything he said was just nothing but professionalism. And I think that that's really cool, that CM Punk wasn't bitter about it, or wasn't an asshole, or didn't talk shit, or anything like that. He knows that he was overmatched, and he knows he almost got killed in there. And he respects his opponent. Everything that CM Punk did and said after the fight, I really admired and respected, and I give the guy a shit ton of credit. So CM Punk, if it was up to me, I would say drop the UFC. Don't get in there and fight again. You have no reason to. You have nothing to prove. So anyway, it is what it is. We'll have to see what the future holds for CM Punk if he decides to take another stab at this thing, if he wants to train a little bit more. and have another fight, or if he decides to abandon it altogether and do something else. He's a guy that likes to try a lot of different things, so maybe this is just one chapter in his life and he moves on to some other crazy occupation next. Who knows? I guess only time will tell as far as CM Punk goes. But leave me all your comments and your opinions about CM Punk, about the fight, about how badly he got beaten, about whether or not you were happy or sad about it, as well as your thoughts on Backlash. How do you feel about this AJ Styles title run? I'm sure most of you are thrilled. I can't see anybody being upset that Dean Ambrose lost. We all love Dean Ambrose. I thought he was a fine WWE World Champion, but WWE wanted to go with AJ, and I have the utmost confidence in him as well. For me, I really don't care. It's just nice to see WWE put the belt on some fresh faces. I mean, we've had Dean Ambrose, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, and now AJ Styles, all new, fresh champions that have never held that belt before, all winning titles just within the past couple of months. So the new era is doing a relatively good job of actually being a new era. Anyway, I will catch you guys on Wednesday. For those of you still listening to this, you're wondering when I'm going to come up here with my Raw and SmackDown reviews. I'm going to review both shows on Wednesday, so you can expect to hear from me sometime late afternoon Pacific Standard Time here in the U.S. I will have a Raw and SmackDown joint review up for you, so stay tuned to the Good Mike Work channel for that. I will talk to you in just a couple of days. Until next time, peace.